I am somebody who spent more than half of my life hating my body, and I did all the diets possible. I have used and abused it in ways that are just not healthy, you know, like over exercising, under eating. I did all the things and just the negative self-talk. And I did this for more than half of my life. And I'm going to say about a decade ago, things shifted because I had competed in some bodybuilding competitions. And when I quote unquote hit the mark, right, that we are looking for, after I got my medals, I was like, I still don't like myself. And actually was during the prep of the second show where I really developed some disordered eating patterns, and habits that I hadn't previously had, or some of them amplified. And so I come in here tonight, I just want to share things that I know that I've helped, a method that I developed and has really just helped me really radically transform my relationship that I had with food, as well as exercise, and to my body image. And I'm coming in here to share this with you. So let's get started. All right, so here's the thing. First and foremost, I really want to invite you to pay attention to this one thing. This is super huge. Have you ever noticed that when you're out with friends, or maybe it's you yourself, when you're talking about your food and your food choices, how we attach a moral label to that? I really just want you to hear this. When I started bringing this conscious awareness to this habit that I had, wow, I first had to notice it for myself, and then I noticed it everywhere, and now it's like my ears bleed. I'm not even kidding. My friends know that if you're around me and this is happening, I'm gonna call you out on it, because this is not self-deprecation, first of all, in society should not be a thing. And we should not be attaching moral labels to our own human, right? And so the moral labels, it looks like this. I'm gonna be good today and I'm gonna eat a salad. Oh my God, I was so bad and I had some dessert, right? Tell me if you have heard people that you love, or even on TV, like we hear it everywhere, or maybe you have caught yourself saying that. So this has to be number one. Moral labels and food do not belong in the same sentence. I have been preaching this since I understood for myself that that's a habit I had, and I was like, whoa, I know I'm not the only one. And we really just gotta like cut that in the booty, big time, right? That is not helping you, because there's actually studies that show that how we speak to ourselves really affects how we show up and what happens physiologically to ourselves in the body. So that looks like if you're berating yourself, you are actually flooding your body with stress hormones, and your mind cannot tell the difference between reality and fantasy. And how do I know that this is true? I'm gonna tell you right now. Have you ever like sat through a scary show and you got your palms all sweaty, or like it's like the part in the video where it's like, oh my gosh, what's gonna happen next? And you're like holding your breath. That's your mind not being able to determine if this is reality or fantasy. So when we speak to ourselves, your mind doesn't know, and it's flooding you with the stress hormones. And like, it doesn't have to be this way. It doesn't. Life doesn't have to be this way, okay? So I'm gonna share this one tool that I developed because I used to struggle. I used to have a lot of food noise. If you don't know what food noise is, I'm gonna tell you what that is right now. Food noise is when you're constantly, there's this chatter. There's always a chatter, by the way, in our minds. But when your chatter is mostly focused on food, it's mostly focused on when's your next meal, what you're gonna eat. Oh my God, I'm hungry. I'm eating this meal, but I'm planning the next meal, right? And so on and so forth. And it just takes up so much mental, emotional bandwidth that it becomes exhausting. Exhausting. They've actually done studies as well where people think they just need to white knuckle it through and like use that willpower. And the thing is that the more the relationship you have towards the food you're consuming and the relationship you've built within yourself, and this is why I'm going to share this tool, it really has an impact. Because if you don't have a solid relationship, then there's such a thing as decision fatigue, and that's going to wipe you out fast, What does that look like? That looks like it takes everything for you to say no at the coffee break for those donuts. And then it takes everything for you to say no for your friend who's like, let's go out and have, I don't know, a poutine or whatever, you know, and it takes you everything to like, you know, stick and strong to this hardcore diet that you're trying to follow, or this meal plan, which I've got an opinion on these things and I'll share that later. And that when it comes to the end of the day, you're just so exhausted because we're making decisions all the time, that when it gets to the end, you're just like, and then we fall into the, what scientists have now claimed, the what the hell effect. And that looks like, screw it, I'm just gonna eat all the things in sight because why not, right? It's basically like slashing all 3 tires because you have 1 flat tire. This is literally what the hell effect looks like. And if you have been there, I have been there, raise your hand, we're going to talk about it. But here's the thing. This mental emotional bandwidth, it becomes so loud in your mind, and that's all it is, and that's all it is, and that's all that's consuming you. And in there, guaranteed, you have attached moral labels and you have food rules, and this video is for you. And if you want to share this out, that'd be great, but let me know in the comments. Let's just have this open conversation. We're going to be really kind to our humans. I'm really big on that. We need to be kind to our humans, and when we learn something new, when we know better, we can choose different. It's not when you know better you do better, like you be better. It's when you know better you choose something different. Okay? Because you can always go back to the same way of being. Always, always. That's always an option. However, if you want to try something different, then you need to take this information that I'm going to share, and I'm hoping something you're going to grab from here and go and apply it and then come let me know. But there is a way to really just quiet this food noise and this overconsumption of that chatter, to really just stop draining this mental emotional bandwidth so that your decision fatigue doesn't like burn out faster, okay? I have this acronym, it's called SAM. This is my SAM method. So the S in SAM stands for your self-talk. I already started this video talking about that. What's your self-talk track? So your self-talk is huge. Now, I talked about the moral labels and how you're chatting towards yourself and if you're berating yourself, but this self-talk is not only for that, it's also for what is it associated to the rules you've created with the food choices you're making. So do you tell yourself, I can't have something? I can't have that, right? Because the minute you say you can't have something, guess what? You want it, right? Reverse psychology is a thing. And so if you tell yourself, I can't have it, you are for sure gonna want it, because rejection creates obsession. And so be prepared to ramp that up. So what is your self-talk? Are you limiting yourself to like feeling, because the thing is, the minute you say you can't, you kind of box yourself in like a victim and like you don't have sovereignty and authority over your life. This is literally what it is. And so you are limiting the potential here. So your self-talk is really, what are you saying to yourself? Are you attaching moral labels to the decisions you make with your food, right? We got to look at that. And number 2 is, where are you creating these food rules that are not allowing you to have certain things? A stands for abundance. Now, where I live in the world in Northern Ontario, Canada, and depending on where you live, most of the world, I'm not going to say all of the world because I'm very well aware of the privileges that I have with food, but there is an availability and an abundance of it everywhere, right? I am very blessed. You are most likely very blessed. And if you're part of the population that is not, like, I see you, but I'm speaking to those who are having this food noise. There is an abundance. There is ample food around us. Right now, that food has always existed, right? Stay with me here. There's ample opportunity to go out to the store and grab what you're hungry for. It's there. So we can't let certain holidays distract us from the fact that these are all designed by corporations and the marketing to make us go spend our money to purchase the thing, right? And so we need to see that there's ample opportunities. These have always existed. The availability is there, okay? And then M stands for the moderation. Now, the reason I talk about moderation is because I want you to just think of it like this. I'm a mom. I have 3 kids. They're a lot older, but when they were younger, there were times that they just wanted to have ice cream for breakfast. Now, as a mom, the way that I parented my kids, like, I'm not just gonna give them, ice cream for breakfast. That's not gonna nourish them, right? We talked about the more nourishing foods. That's not gonna nourish them. They're gonna be hungry like within the hour. And if I'm sending them to school, like, I'm not setting them up for success. So follow me here. So the moderation piece comes in where you now have to become a parent to yourself. And so you need to really just be honest. Like, when it comes to growth, like, this channel is all based on personal development, like all of it. So if you want to change your life, like, follow along, because I'm going to show you all the tips and tricks for that. But the amount of growth a person will have is by being brave enough to be honest about how they're showing up in their life. And so moderation comes down to, well, I could eat this thing, but if I ate it yesterday and the day before and the day before, like, the moderation piece comes into what is your relationship to the thing. Like, we need to really question certain rules we have around food. And so not blocking off certain things because of a fear of them. Do you know what I'm saying? Moderation really needs to come from, how am I showing up and am I being honest with myself, right? Like, this is a vessel. This body we have is a vessel for our soul. And so do I feel like I'm living like vibrant, or do I feel like I'm like I got no more gas in the tank? And they've done all of the studies. This really shows, like, the food that we eat obviously impacts us. And so just being aware without being like so rigid, and I'm gonna say something to that right here. We can't major in the minors. Like, stop majoring in the minors. Like, every time I have a client that wants to work with me, they wanna know, like, what supplements do I need, and what do I need for this, and what do I need to do for that? And the thing is you're majoring in the minors and you're not focusing on, like, majoring in where you need to move the dial. Are you getting enough sleep? Are you drinking your water, right? So I'm gonna give you some extra tips. So now I'm going into the extra tips. So making sure you're eating enough. So that's gonna be tip number 3. Like, are you eating enough? Are you eating enough? Are you really eating enough? Sometimes I have worked with clients, and if I look at myself, there are times where I was depriving myself so much that I would get to the end of the day ravished. Like, I was so hungry, I would like eat a horse, like literally, like just eat all the things inside and then just keep going and going and going. And obviously the binging habit started because of the self-talk, because of the food rules. Like, do you see how everything is related? And so if you're not eating enough, like, your body will, you're not able to outsmart your body. That is first and foremost. Your body is made to keep you alive. And so it's going to do whatever it can to keep you alive, right? It has functions it needs. Like, your brain needs calories to function, right? And so if you're not eating enough, that is a huge, that for sure is going to create a lot of, like, food noise in the mind. That's going to be chatter nonstop because you're starving. And so, for the love of God, eat some food. Food is not the enemy, okay? Your thoughts are. We have been conditioned by society to believe that we need to be a certain size and all the things. And again, like, I have a different practice. My practice is healthy is what feels healthy to you. So starving yourself cannot feel healthy at all. And so you need to be eating enough. And on this same token, I decided I want to share something really, really important that I just was doing research on, and I was like, wow, this is fascinating. And so I'm a Gen X woman. I'm 46. I grew up in a generation where women were taught we need to be smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. You need to eat less, move more, all the things. And the generations that came before me were all taught the same thing. And so there is a study that was done recently where they discovered, and this is very sad, they took participants that have basically been eating and doing all the practices that they were recommended, eat less, move more, and I don't believe in this, and you shouldn't either after you hear this. And what they discovered was the more that we go on these fad diets, we're actually impacting our muscle. And our muscle is what we need to be able to age. And I'm all about the pro-aging, right? I'm 46. I'm all about pro-aging. I just had my second major massive spinal flare because I have a condition called spondylolisthesis. It's a grade 2. It was horrible, okay? And so I'm in the process now of rebuilding my strength because I never want to go back there. And muscle is what's going to help us pro-age. It's going to help us age in a way where we're able to get up off of our chairs, where we're able to bend down and like pick up our groceries, right? Where we're able to reach up in our cupboards and grab that jar of pickles or whatever. Like, aging is a gift that's denied to many. If we are lucky enough to age, we've got to try to pro-age in a way that's going to help us age gracefully so that we're not suffering. Right? Our quality of life will be greatly impacted. And so in this study, they took women that had spent more than half of their lives on fad diets and doing all these ridiculous exercise programs, like I just said, the eat less and move more approach, which is okay. And there was a woman that they took from this study that agreed to have her brain imaging done and to do full body scans. And they discovered, and then they did this with a lot of the other participants, but this study spoke specifically to this one woman, where she had lost so much muscle, right? Because when we diet, that's what we're actually doing. We're cutting muscle. So she had lost a lot of muscle. And so that made her metabolic age like a lot older than she actually was, right? So that's like, your metabolic age is a really good indicator of health. And I could do another video on that to just talk about how to figure out what your metabolic age currently is compared to what your chronological age is. And they did an image of her brain and they saw that it had all the signs of early onset Alzheimer's. And that was all related to, now obviously there's other factors, but after they did this study, they reviewed all of the participants, and this is what they came up with, is that when we are over dieting, when we are over exercising, when we are under eating, right, we are losing our muscle and we are impacting health. We our mind, right? We're impacting it all. And so after I saw that study, I was like, oh my God, oh my God, I'm going to start preaching it from the rooftops even louder than I previously was. The importance of moving our bodies in a way that is going to impact in a positive way the future version of us. And so women that are in my age group, right, are the Gen X women, we should be doing some resistance training. That could look like body weight stuff, but also some, weights or bands or things like this, just challenging that muscle growth in your body. That's huge. Like, what's your hobby? Because sometimes if we're ever in front of the fridge and you're like, I'm hungry, but there's nothing that I want. You open the cupboard, I'm hungry, but there's nothing that I want. Then honey, you're not hungry, you're bored. Go do something, right? It becomes a habit. It just becomes a habit. You just keep doing the thing, but nothing's changing. Then you're not really hungry. Maybe you're thirsty and you're bored. Go take a walk, right? Go do something else. Get out of that environment. Change your environment, right? These are all things that you start to pay attention to because it'll shift that. First of all, I'm hoping it'll start to really help you ask yourself different questions, right? Tony Robbins always says this, the quality of your life depends on the quality of your questions. So what are you asking yourself, right? Ask yourself the right questions like, I'm curious how I got here. I'm curious what happens if I do this. I'm curious if, and just start to do experiments on yourself from a place of really wanting to improve this relationship so that, because literally this food noise, it doesn't have to take up as much space as it has in your life, and there is a way to get to a point where you can quiet it or completely shut it out. and I'm living proof, and I have clients that are living proof. Some people, they're still going to have some food noise, but it's never going to be to the extent it was, because they are managing these things, right? They're really like, they're focusing on what their self-talk is. They're understanding that there's always an abundance of food, so they can have the thing or not have the thing. They're working on their moderation, right? They're really paying attention to like how things shift if they do decide to have the thing. You don't have to have this FOMO, fear of missing out. You don't have to beat yourself up. And let me know in the comments if any of this made sense, or if you're like, you know, want me to go deeper on certain topics. I am so grateful for all the subscribers that I have so far. Super, super grateful that you're here. And love you all. Remember, be brave, be bold, be you.